This is Calpun Piso, presenting more facts. My brain is creating thought. I'm going to talk today about concepts emanating from the brain, and especially the concept of God. What is God? Every civilization since 40,000 years ago, since we start creating all this supernatural imagery and trying to explain the existence and the world and everything with our brains, of course, the concept and the word. What is the word God? What is God? Do you believe in God? And the same thing, the word is in every language is the same. Gott in German, Dio, Deus, Dios in Spanish, and so forth. But it's a vacuous concept. It denotes an intelligent designer, creator, a spirit, supernatural entity. So to a child, when the brain starts to grow, 6-year-old, if you tell him Winnie the Pooh, do you believe in Winnie the Pooh? He would say yes. To him, Winnie the Pooh is God. Well, friends, I can tell you who God is. God is a personification of mental illness. That's what God is. We personify everything. Everything is being personified since personification began. In the Roman Empire, everything was personified. Emotions were personified. In the United States, we do that too. How do you personify the United States? As the character of Uncle Sam. You also personify Father Christmas and all that. Storms are personified. The air is personified with the guy blowing, the moon as a goddess is personified because he has a face on it. So God, to the Christians, is a resurrected zombie. To allies, to the Muslims, and to the shaman in the forest is a tree with eyes and all that. Clouds, sun, and all personifications. You see that in Roman epigraphy and all over the world. They are personifications of gods, and they look human. They all have have a head and arms and legs and all that. They're like Greek mythology. They are divine. So the true God is APOMI, a personification of mental illness. And the reason is because we create thought with the brain. This is something the atheists, brilliant scholar atheists like Dawkins and Harris and Dennett and so forth, they are clueless about. The God delusion doesn't even mention that the brain creates God. So you have a copious book with vacuous nonsense, ethereal nonsense, that it doesn't reflect the reality of it all. Dawkins should say, we create God thoughts with the brain. Product of evolution. You have neurons, axons, and the mechanisms of cognition. It doesn't mention that he's got delusion. Sam Harris doesn't either. None of this. So how are you going to bring reality to people that are infected with Christ psychosis and the religious if you don't tell them that they're creating all these delusions with the brain, just like schizophrenics? You'll never get anywhere if you don't put religious people, especially the educated, because the ignorant have an excuse, but educated people that believe in God, or APOMI, they have a problem with the brain. They don't see that. And in a moment of lucidity, long time ago, probably 5th century or so, 6th century, APOMI, in other words, God, a personification of mental illness. People start getting very confused, and they say the God is too sacred. to be represented as a person, personification. So they start right in the Byzantine Empire, in Constantinople, the city of Christ psychotics, about 5th, 6th century. They start destroying images. People start revolting and say, God is too sacred to be represented as a human being. It's just something ethereal. Well, they were correct. It's in the brain. How do you represent thoughts? You cannot represent thoughts. It's a bunch of electrons and neurons and synapses, passing information. Little electrical thing. That's what you represent. God, thought. But anyway, so they start crashing and destroying images. It's called the iconoclasm, destroying the images. And they were restituted later. But Islam adopted this. So a representation, a personification of mental illness, APOMI, or God, was too sacred, and they represented just with writings. See, there is just on the Muslims, they forbid images. They were pretty smart, because when you see God, you can think anyway, even your penis, the little figure, Winnie the Pooh, whatever is right, there's God. Very smart, it's in the brain. So keep that in mind. But believing God is a mental illness, a personification of mental illness. That's what God is. Atheists, brilliant minds, mentally healthy atheists today, they don't understand that. They don't see it. It's a big elephant in the room. Believing God, an imaginary friend God, is no different than the imaginary friends believe as true by schizophrenics, or people neurological disorder like temporal lobe epilepsy, cognitive dissonance, and so forth. Fact. And brilliant minds like Richard Dawkins, his book, great book, but it misses the point. APOMI, a personification of mental illness. I mean, Harris was the same with the letter to a Christian nation. These people are completely clueless of how the brain works, creating the delusions of God, which are found in schizophrenia and all religious beliefs. They all are based in APOMI, a personification of mental illness. In other words, God and spirits. That's a fact.
The great quote, who came up with this one? A guy named Devereaux referred to primitive religion as being organized schizophrenia. This was some flavor of contextualized, appropriate, hearing the voices at the right time, all of that. But this was about the weird stuff those folks are up to in the night and the time life specials on public television. And what the critical transition is it's not just about them. Unique and outlawing the irrational. Let me give you some recent statistics from a poll survey. I don't know about you guys, but these numbers astonished me. 25% of Americans say they believe in ghosts. 36% believe in mental telepathy. 47% believe in UFOs. And more than 50% of Americans believe in the devil and a belief that the devil influences daily activities. They vote. These are people who can serve on juries. These are people who can operate motor vehicles. These are people making decisions about medical interventions. I, for one, in this outpost of not terribly extreme irrationality in this corner of the country, am astonished. We live in a world that is highly irrational. And about non-Western traditional human societies, the exact same thread of schizotypalism runs throughout all of the belief systems of human societies, and we are permeated by irrationality. Now, some of the versions of it that we have in the West are utter nonsense ones that have just been invented out of thin air in recent years, which is kind of like fast food for these sort of nouveau, sort of medieval peasants in their hot tubs up in Marin. This is and channeling and things of that sort. But some of the versions of our westernized irrationality go back millennia and organize some of our most cherished values, the same valuing of those who invent the appropriate versions of the irrationality runs throughout the West.
See, how many people hear of Dr. Sapolsky? This brilliant mind. So I would suggest Dawkins, Hitchens, Sam Harris, Dennett, and the rest of mentally healthy, brilliant atheists that are clueless that we create thoughts with the brain and that beliefs of the religious people are no different than beliefs of the schizophrenic. APOMI. And this is the problem. So Dawkins should take lessons from Dr. Sapolsky and the rest of them. So, so they get a clue that religious beliefs are no different than neurological disorders like schizophrenia. Fact. We create thoughts with the brain, not the ass. Here, personification of the gods. This is a 30,000-year-old Venus of Willendorf, representing Venus, creator woman. These are personifications in coins. The personification of the goddess of wisdom, personification of wisdom, personification of the gods that created men out of mud, the other gods, personification of United States of America, Uncle Sam, personification of Washington, the president, depicted as Zeus or Jupiter. Here is also a personification of the god of the god of all the gods, the sun god, Helios, also representation. All these gods have different names. Here is the goddess of the moon, which is equivalent to Anahita and Venus, representation of a woman, Apollo representation. And this is the god of children, Winnie the Pooh, represented as a bear personified. The river gods are personified as old men here, leaning. Dawn is personified, day is personified, night is personified.
Again,
this is personification. In this 21st century, personifications of these gods, of these imaginary friends accepted as reality, is mental illness by educated people, because only the ignorant have an excuse. This is APOMI, a personification of mental illness. All the schizophrenics, people suffering from schizophrenia, mental disorders, temporal lobe, epilepsy, and the religious, educated, accept these imaginary personifications, these things, as reality. Everything is personified in disease that they have. But the problem is the major disease that they have is in the brain. Religious psychosis. Well, friends, do you believe in APOMI? It's like saying, do you believe a resurrected zombie named Jesus Christ was crucified and resurrected to save with blood for the sin committed by a mad man and a ripped woman when they accepted a fruit from a talking snake? Well, talking snake, what is that? The snake is also a personification, an animal of a penis. So these are all personifications, and the Egyptians use it all the time in symbolism and epigraphy. They use a snail to represent a penis. They use oysters and shell to represent the vagina. The mandorla. See, if you look at the epigraphy of early Christians in the Renaissance, for instance, you see Christ inside a mandorla, which is the vagina of the Virgin. And the Virgin is a personification of the planet Venus. And it's personified as Isis, Maya, Anahita, and all the goddesses you want. Personification. So now you know who APOMI is. Do you believe in APOMI? A personification of mental illness. Because see, if you believe in ghosts and spirits that are hunting you, or demons floating in the air, and you're educated and intellectual, and you have a degree in a PhD in medicine or something, whatever, if you're a lawyer, and you have that, you suffer from mental disorder, a schizotypal disease, because you have APOMI. You believe in APOMI, a personification of mental illness. You personify the concept that is attacking you as a demon. See, and they're not just were educated to be like that. See, and this is what APOMI is. In ancient times, there was no problem because everything was personified. Anything that's bad for you is considered the demons, the bad things happen. It's like, for instance, recently, well, about a couple hundred years ago, you know, anything that went bad in your body, a disease that you have, it was the demons that were causing this. So you have to remove the demons so they bleed you. That's what the Spanish and all that they believe in APOMI. They bled people to death because they're removing the stupid Christ-psychotic imbeciles. They remove the blood. They keep bleeding. That's the way they treat the medicine because of the APOMI. So it was demons. So you have to get rid of demons. And you have also, when you get sick and you're in the tropics, the demons, the air, there was the air, these bad spirits that attack your body and make you ill. And they call it bad air. Well, bad air, you know, malaria, mal-aira, air, you know, spirit, the air. Mal is bad. Malaria, that's where the word malaria comes from. And of course, in the swamps, in the southern part of the United States, and the swamps and all that, in the South, you know, late 1800s and all that, it was bad air, malaria. They thought there was a spirit, so the air had to be changed. So this guy invented, his wife was sick, so he put an apparatus, a device in his house to change the air. That was the invention of air conditioning. Change the air. Get rid of the malaria. So there you have it. It's all in the brain. So if you believe in demons and all that, and everything's personified, that's APOMI. Do you believe in APOMI? And this is all over the world, because they all have the word God translated into many different words, depending on the language. So God could be APOMI, you know, could be anti, axo, God, God, Traia, Deus, Dio, Dios, da, intelligent designer. All come from the brain. God does not exist. It's APOMI, personification of mental illness. Here, personification of the planets as gods, and here's a personification of silence, Harpocrates. This is silence during sacred sex, personified by Harpocrates with the phallus on his head. When your brain functions beautifully and is very healthy and you're educated and you connect dots and you realize that you are nothing but an evolved mutated primates, product of evolution, that create product of a fuck, sperm and egg, and that the brain evolves and you create, you know, all the thoughts on the mind with the brain, and you realize that, then you are mentally healthy. You become an atheist. That's what a true atheist means. That's the reason why I call it mentally healthy. You can never say atheist by itself, the word atheism. Never. And this is a problem with Dawkins, Hitchens, and the rest of brilliant mentally healthy atheists. They ignore this fact. They never say, they just say atheism. And, oh, we're atheists and, you know, we don't believe in, we have one more God that we don't believe in and all that. And all the, you know, if you're a Muslim, you're an atheist to some other God and so forth. I mean, this is ridiculous. Everything is created in the brain. If you believe in God, you're sick. You have a problem. And this is what atheist means, that you are mentally healthy. In other words, an atheist. We can keep that in mind to differentiate the insane people that believe in God, you know, Christ psychotics or religious psychotics or people suffering from religious virus, something wrong with the brain, and to differentiate the sick people, the insane, from the sane, the ones that lack belief in imaginary friends, atheism. In other words, sane people. Because the schizophrenics that believe in imaginary friends, APOMI, are no different than all religious people all over the world that have APOMI. In other words, they accept a bizarre mathematical belief of God, APOMI, as true. And it's interesting that Dr. Sapolsky, such a brilliant neuroscientist, my hero, he's not connecting here. Indirectly he is, but he's not connecting schizophrenia, which is the belief, the acceptance of bizarre mathematical beliefs as reality. In other words, APOMI. Demons, spirits, the shaman see. You want APOMI? Take something to the flower, so let me hit you over the head. And then there is the revelations of APOMI, mental illness. And atheists ignore this fact, mentally healthy atheists. I call it mentally healthy because they believe in all this, in APOMI. In other words, APOMI is a personification of mental illness. When accepted as true, you are sick in the mind. Only children and only children and ignorant people have an excuse. That is a fact. But in ancient times, all these representations of God's APOMI, they believed it was reality. So they had a problem with the brain. Today in the 21st century, you have to be sick to have APOMI, a personification of mental illness. We can create APOMI. I can create my own God. I can say, hey, there is a guy in here, the spirit inside this globe. And I pray to it. Now, if I have that fantasy that makes me feel very good, and I touch and it's all around the planet, it's so nice, I'm healthy. Because I know it's just not true, but it's something that I created. But if I believe that this is true, and I'm intelligent and I read a lot of books and everything, then I suffer from mental illness, from a schizotypy, from a schizophrenia. APOMI, a personification of mental illness. That's what I'm doing here when I believe this is full of spirits. There's just some Christ psychotics are all religious people, educated, that believe they have APOMI. They believing all this stuff to be true are sick people. So, unlike Sam Harris, I can see it. He's blind. So this is my video to Christ psychosis infected America. In other words, Christianity infected America with belief, with APOMI, God. So if you are a Christian that believes, and you have to believe in imaginary friends, zombie Jesus that actually resurrect and saves with blood, to save mankind from the sin committed by a madman and a real woman when they accepted a fruit from a talking snake. If you're a true Christian, which you must believe this, you suffer from a schizophrenia-like disorder that infects your brain, making you have APOMI, a personification of mental illness. Mental illness is when you accept an imaginary friend, insert the name of your God right here, as fact. And if you accept that as true, then you have a problem with your brain. This is easily proven in a neurology lab, a fact. So if you are a Christian, and you believe in all that and you're intelligent, then I suggest you obtain true salvation by visiting a mentally healthy atheist neurologist to examine your brain and give you some medication. So, this is a fact. If you believe in God or APOMI, you're a theotard and you have a problem with your brain. Pace Diyorum.